Hey, welcome back to the 11th episode of the Decomposition podcast, where we break down the hottest takes in tech and programming into their fundamental components. We separate signal from noise, tackle complex topics with clarity, and rebuild our understanding from the ground up. This is Jose, and today I thought we'd talk a little bit about how to be effective in headhunting. This comes from my own experience, not that I'm a headhunter or I'm very active in hiring, but as my experience on the other side of the table, that I believe lots of other software engineers will resonate with what I'm about to say. There are two main points that I wanna talk about in this episode, and if you work in hiring, you should probably take some notes now. The points that I want to make are about details that matter and don't matter in the job description. So how to make better job descriptions so you can attract more relevant candidates. And the second point is the network effect. So about the first one, the details that matter and don't matter. One of the most frustrating things when a software engineer is at least obviously this is always my perspective when looking at job descriptions, one of the things that doesn't really matter for us is a checklist like of technologies, right? So there's little relevance to have you need to be good with Go or Rust or Java or any other of the frameworks that are built upon those technologies. It's interesting to have the list of technologies the company currently uses, but they shouldn't be necessarily a checklist whether the candidate has or hasn't experience with that, and this might be a little bit contradictory, right? Or it might be even an odd take, because how will you filter candidates that do have experience on that and don't have experience on that? The thing is that I'm not saying that it's important as a screening element. It might not be important as you're trying to get the best person for the job, and sometimes the technology is just a detail that somebody can learn really quickly, right? So as a software engineer, I'm very comfortable in reading code. I understand the concepts of programming and software developing, right? So I understand structures, functions, methods, objects, and all of those components that eventually build up to a specific programming language. So it will always be a case of learning the syntax, right? But as long as you understand the concepts and the design pattern and really have that development or engineering mentality, one can adapt very fast to what is required. Obviously, there's this learning curve of the syntax, right? People with lots of experience in specific technologies can already have that baggage, right? And then don't need to worry about or don't need some company investment into learning them. But there, you might get somebody that, let me just take a closer example. You might get somebody that knows, for example, PHP very well, but might miss the understanding or deep understanding of how to do software engineering, right? So you kind of get this candidate that knows the syntax or has some not minor experience, but some shallow experience about how to write minimal software with this technology, but does not know the concept or is not well that doesn't understand other abstract concepts that can allow it to build software more effectively, right? So which one of those is more relevant? Somebody that checks all the boxes, that says, yes, I know, I work with this technology, I know its syntax, but then reveals to not have a deep understanding or can build up solutions that are like effective and performant, for example, right? Or would you prefer to invest like 1-2 weeks of work for people to kind of get to learn the syntax and go and try to see how the specific language and technology is built and use it, but as all of those as this deep understanding or is well versed on the abstract concepts that allow them to then pick up speed and pace and build really interesting solutions with a language that's until then was unfamiliar in terms of syntax, right? So which one of those is a better investment, right? Now begs the question, right? So I would say that making a checklist of the technologies and screen initially purely based on that is a waste of possible candidates with a higher quality, right? And more relevant candidates. I think I speak for the majority of people listening to this, and they can relate to this being off because I don't know, you don't know the syntax already, you hadn't had the opportunity to work with that or something like that, and but proving to be much more competent in other more relevant areas that could help picking up that syntax quicker is it sucks, right? So I wouldn't say that those are the details that I think that don't matter in a job description. Now, the details that do matter in a job description are presentation about the company, what the company is doing, what's its mission, how it aims to achieve that mission, and obviously a description not only of what the company is looking for, so the expectations for the position, right? So if you want a tech lead, what's your definition of a tech lead? Can I understand what are your expectations to see if it resembles with something that I might be suitable for, right? So that will allow the candidate to understand exactly what the context will be of the work. Other details is if you're hiring for on-site or remote, and obviously the last major detail is please give us a range of the salary and other benefits you might give. Don't list unlimited paid time off and other shit like that, and then don't reveal the range, the salary range, because we all know you have one. They might not be explicit, they might be implicit, but there's 0 times where I asked specifically for a salary range and people wouldn't be able to. You don't come bullshitting us saying that it depends on the experience. That's okay. Give us what's the pay for the minimal amount of experience the software engineer you're able or you're open to hire for this role, and what would be the maximum pay for a very good and experienced developer for that position, right? So give us the range. We're not asking for a specific value, right? You can say it's somewhere between 50 and 150. That's okay. It's a lot. It's a pretty big range. There's some people I've seen posting the range from 0 to infinity, or 0 to, I don't know, 200k or something like that. Please don't. Let's forget about the extremes, but let's try to have something like, you can say something like, hey, from, I don't know, 60 to 90k or possibly more depending on the experience, right? So we now know that at least we have this range, like from 50 to 90 or 60 to 90k. That's the range. So we assume that a very experienced person would land at least on 90k, and the other part of the sentence, right, or above if the experience proves itself worthy, right? So it says that at least I can get like 60. but I can go even over 90, which is the maximum range for this position, if I see if I prove worth of it, right? So that's kind of the details that I don't think it's too hard to show, right? And it allows to filter out a lot of candidates that would not be relevant, right? So you might have, I've got a lot of opportunities being sent to me just to be immediately dismissed due to the out of range, right? Like the salaries don't align for for those particular cases, and not knowing is just either making extremely frustrated candidates that may be good for you not want to go ahead because they might not want to invest the time in sending their CV and going into the first or second screening cycle, just to later stage know that the salary isn't what they expected. Show these details beforehand, and you can immediately filter out candidates that are not relevant, right? You might, it does not hurt you to have it. I don't think there's a major reason to not have a range. In fact, I think that companies that show a range have a more percentage of candidates sending their intention to, right? So replace the checklist of technologies that a person must know, and even can replace that sentence, hey, even if you think you don't have all the qualified requirements, right? So don't, what I'm basically saying is don't ask for specific technologies, ask for abstract knowledge, let's say, right? Instead of asking, I want you to be very versed in Java and Kafka and MySQL and whatever else technology, just say, please, do have experience in relational databases and object-oriented programming, and hey, just FYI, we generally use Java and MySQL and Kafka to work out our problems. So it's a plus if you have experience on that, but it's not entirely a deal breaker. Just by saying this, you're inviting very good candidates or possible good candidates to send that application, where otherwise they wouldn't. If you just say, hey, we're looking for a Java person that knows Kafka, that knows MySQL, that's what we're looking for. Look, if I saw this, I would say, I don't have experience. I don't have 5 years experience in Java or something like that, right? We even had some funny things going around in the programming community, like I want somebody with 5 years of Bun experience, right? And Bun was only available to the general public like 2 or 3 years ago or something like that at that time. So funny thing about that. So also the years mean absolutely shit. I know people that have very low years, very low number of years working, but they have like a lot of experience because they were exposed to such a range of different situations and problems and challenges in the short amount of years that make them extremely relevant, where if you're just looking to years of experience, they would be immediately screened out, right? So also that's a detail that does not make any sense. You're not looking for somebody with 5 or 10 years in Java or PHP or Go or whatever. You're looking for somebody that can write very good programs, that probably know a little bit, depending on the technology you use, they probably know very good object-oriented programming or functional programming, and maybe has a very good knowledge of relational database or non-relational database, right? Instead of saying I want somebody who knows Postgres and MySQL, or somebody who knows MongoDB or the ClickHouse or something like that, right? So be a little bit more abstract and just add a little bit more information that, hey, FYI, we use this tech, so you know, if you have good experience with them, that's good for you. It turns the needle in your favor, but it's not necessarily a deal breaker. And then have that investment of letting people know the syntax and work with specific technology. Because the thing is, as you hire these people and your company requirement, mission, and something along those lines change, you'll need new technologies. I've been in the position where we integrated new technology that nobody knew how to use, but we needed them because they were the best tool for the job and the product needs that we had. And you know what happened? Everybody learned about it, obviously, right? So we didn't even need to go outside, like hire somebody specifically for that. But we've been also on the other side where we supposedly have people with a lot of experience in, I don't know, I think it was in relational database, like my Postgres or whatever, that didn't have the required knowledge, deep knowledge, that we had to go and find somebody with a lot more knowledge to fix and help us improve the problems that we were facing. See? It means absolutely nothing. So, to recap a little bit on point number one is good details to have. Describe the company, its mission, and if you have a page related to your culture. Seen companies have Notion pages set up publicly to allow candidates to explore and understand the culture, how the company works. Another thing is, don't list a checklist of technologies with years of experience. Please be a little bit more abstract, like object-oriented or functional programming, relational database, non-relational database, something like that. That's interesting for people to understand what type of technologies you use, to see if they would want to work with it. But by not putting the years of experience, the minimal years of experience, or the specific requirement that we really need somebody who has worked with this technology in the past, unless it's very, very, very absolutely necessary, you are inviting other people that can probably pick up on that and have other relevant skills that will allow you to be a better problem solver, right? When you, I don't know, if I go into an analogy, if you go and search for a contractor to, I don't know, to do your electrical, you don't ask for somebody with 5 years of experience in specific outlets you use. You assume that if you're hiring a contractor, he'll have the necessary skills or people, right, to work all of the problems in your house, right? You might need, hey, I want somebody who has worked as a contractor for like 10 years or 15 years, or I want the person with more years of experience, but not with specific. If you were to filter by specific things in your house, it'll be them if you find somebody who fits that. So why do it in software engineering, right? So all of other details you can, and don't forget about putting a salary range. Okay, so with a lot less information and with the smaller job descriptions, you might even get more percentage of relevant candidates sending you their CVs, right, and sending their applications. The second point, the network effect, is something really interesting that I've seen at least company that I work with currently doing, which is you might not even open your job openings publicly. I've seen that happen before. It's like, we don't hire publicly, we hire through our own network, which means that we hire through the relations and connections of our workers, right? Of people that already is working with us. So that's really interesting, because the fact that we are receiving these applications through recommendations means that they were already pre-screened somehow, and the person that is recommending those applications has already a sense of the culture, of what we need, of how the company works, and by referencing them, they are already filter out unrelevant candidates, right? So that's a really nice, interesting thing. It's not that one is quicker or slower than the other, because you might have a public job opening that receives 100 candidates and you're filtering through them and only poor quality applications. So you will take some time to filter and find a nice candidate. But then you might wait a little bit more time to get a single application through the network, this network effect. But then that reference and referral, I would say, is kind of hot, right? It's interesting, it's relevant, and it's easier to then finish and continue the process and finish it. So, and generally might end with a higher rate than the public job offer. That's something really interesting to also think about it, right? So if you things that might help out sorry things that might help out into nurturing this network effect are things like referral bonus, like paying your workers, your team members referral, right? That's also really a really interesting way of nurturing these referrals, so people don't think that they are doing your job, but they get some kick out of it. And you can put whatever conditions around it, like they need to, whoever you refer needs to finish the trial program or trial period, right? So it needs to be a real good fit, needs to already have experience, and we need to say, okay, this is the person that will stay here for a longer period, right? And now we can pay. So a sure deal. And also there's another thing that you might also worry. Consider this a bonus point. Don't hire just for the city that you have offices in, cities and countries that you have offices in. It's very good and understandable that companies have offices, but as we might all know, with all this remote working culture and something like that, there are people that prefer on-site, there are people that prefer remote. You need to kind of accommodate for both. But I think that not opening for fully remote positions makes you make your relevant candidate pool a lot smaller than it should be, right? Why not hire remotely? What's the problem? You save on energy bill, like on utilities, on not having a very big office to accommodate everybody. Yeah, we have good arguments for having people in office, like the interactions and the knowledge sharing and something. But guess what? You can have processes for that for remote people. Letting people work from wherever they want. Obviously, I can understand as long as they have some overlap in terms of time zones with wherever is your relevant market, but not doing that is like shooting yourself in the foot. It makes no sense, right? It makes no sense. Why lose a very nice candidate just because he chose to work, I don't know, to live 300 kilometers from where you're the headquarters? What's the problem? You can always like make some event and join the entire team for a day or a week or whatever in team retreats. Right? So why force people going there? That does not make sense in my head, and I think you might be losing really good candidates by just filtering out. I've seen some people in really good job descriptions where I think would be a very fit in my career, right, in my past, but I couldn't send the application because they were specifically hiring for the city where they have office, and that makes zero sense. it's just, I'm not saying that I would like I'm the best or something like that they lose, but yeah, you might lose relevant over that. So I would recommend, and right now I would advocate that it's good that you want people to be on the office, and you should have a very nice office environment. And if that's the case, maybe people will feel more compelled to go more frequently there. But don't make it a requirement. Then you open yourself to a more broader pool of relevant candidates to hire, and maybe even better candidates to hire. Right? You might obviously geographically lock things like how we only hire to Europe or in US or in whatever continent you are, but don't lock yourself to the country and city where you have offices. But it's good to you might reference to them. You have office here and there, and if you want, you can go and work there. If you want to work on the beach, from your house, from whatever, good for you. That's your problem. As long as you feel and finish your tasks, should be good to go. Right? And that's it. I think we already extended this a little bit more. These are my tips for being effective in headhunting. And yeah, that's it. Again, come join us on our Discord. Access discord.thedecompositionpattern.com. Join us. Come share your point of view on how to be effective in headhunting, and if you agree or disagree. Without further ado, nice day. See you in the next episode.